Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out. Nice crowd today. My name is Rob Bendix. Welcome to the Seattle Revit User Group. Appreciate everybody joining us today on their kind of nice, cool, actually a really nice day outside. Nice and cool. This is the weather I like. Not little moisture in the air, a little cool, not too hot, and not raining. Well, at least not yet. But I love the extended summer, so I'm going to take that all day long. Okay, so first of all, to welcome everybody, we are Seattle Revit User Group. For those that haven't been here before, we are an Autodesk-centric user group environment. We definitely pride ourselves on housing presentations and collaborative learning environments for all disciplines of the AEC community. Students, owners, all those groups entailed. So we like to dig into specific content for sure, but make sure that we try our best to also make sure we include all parties, because that's what BIM and integrated design is all about, is to really make sure that all parties are working together. So we really like presenting that type of environment. So with that, I did see some new faces. People here for their first meeting. All right, wow, lots. Awesome, thanks. I hope you guys are able to continue to join us as we move forward. So I always like to ask a question based off of the presentation that's being given. So I guess stairs and railings. How many have ever felt like this when fighting with stairs and railings? I have. For sure, I figured that was kind of appropriate as curse those tiny stairs. So hopefully, after today's presentation, we won't feel like this so much. Maybe we'll actually kind of get along with our stairs and railing tool a lot better. So, okay, let's see. Of course, we can't say enough about our sponsors that we've had for this year. Our executive partners that we have, PPI Group, IMAGINiT, who's actually hosting and presenting today, as well as ID8. Our premier partners, Corey Group and ARC, American Reprographics, as well as ABC Imaging for their support, as well as our associate partners, a lot of the firms in the area, GLY Construction, Mulvaney G2 Architecture, Lydig Construction, PCS Structural Solutions, Slater Partner Architects, BN Builders, FSI Consulting Engineers, and our two most recent additions, just within the past month, Wood Harbinger and Freiheit Noah Architects. So I welcome them as well and appreciate their support. 2013, I'll actually talk about a little bit of this in a few minutes. 2013 sponsorship packages are now available. It's never too early to start looking towards next year. If your firm is interested in sponsoring or being part of a Seattle Revit User Group, I encourage you to check those out. Past meetings available for viewing. We always try to post those up for viewing. We record all of our sessions as we are doing today. I guess we had a little bit of a snafu last month. If you haven't seen it, it's posted, but we did post up the PowerPoint as well as the handout that Bill shared with us. So you can go get those. We're going to see if we can salvage that recording somehow and get that posted. So I apologize for the technical snafu that we had there. But like I said, we did get the handouts up there, so you can go check those out. Autodesk University 2012. Anybody going? Who am I going to see there? All right. All right. Man, big hand up. Nice. Well, we'll see you there. Look me up. All right. 27th, 28th, 29th, Mandalay Bay Hotel. Early registration's passed, but you can still register. Unfortunately, it's a little $500 more. That's the only kicker. But if you can't make it, I definitely encourage everybody, if you're on subscription, to get signed up for AU Virtual. You can get access to all the content, all of the handouts, all of the media that's going to be posted for viewing in the future. So you definitely want to make sure to keep that in your favorites list. It'll definitely help you out. Great content that you can use all year round. I still reference back content this whole past year and even the year before too. So it's a lot of good stuff up there. So you can go to au.autodesk.com to check that out. Okay, preparing for SeaRUG 2013. So a few things I want to mention. I know that we still have another month left in our meetings, but it's never too early to prepare. In December, we're going to have our annual SeaRUG survey again. I definitely encourage, it's going to go out to the whole membership base, so I definitely encourage your feedback and your input on that because it really kind of helps set the stage for the upcoming years. It tells us a little bit about the people that participate, people that come to these meetings, tells us about what some of your interests are, so we can do our best to set up our meetings for the year based on that feedback. So, and even if you aren't always able to make it, since we record online, the feedback that you give will help us to do that, so that when you do get a chance to go review those, it's appropriate to what you've asked for. So. And if you want to present, we're always looking for presenters. I know that with our executive sponsors, they do a great job of supplying with the presenters throughout the year, but there's always opportunities throughout the year for other groups to do presentations. So if you have something that you've been thinking about, you want to get out, or with your team even, maybe an opportunity to showcase your firm a little bit and give a presentation, that'd be fantastic. Just give me a call, email us at the SeaRUG. Or just ask us after one of the meetings. We'll be glad to talk to you. Always great to have extra presentations in the pool. Speaking back about the sponsorship package for Executive Premier and Associates, those are actually posted up on the SeaRUG.org right now. So if you go to the main menu tab on the left, and there's a sponsorship info link or sponsorship information link there, that'll take you to the page. There's some PDFs for the different groups that you can check out, and hopefully you'll be able to join us for next year. Okay, November 14th, just a little caveat. Normally our meeting's on the third Wednesday of the month, but because of Thanksgiving week, I just want to make an early mention of November 14th as our next meeting. So make sure that that's in your calendar. And of course, like we did this past year, we're not going to have a meeting in December or January. December just with AU, and there's always so many other things going on and holiday stuff. And we skipped January last year, and I think we're going to do it again because of our new sponsorship model that we do. January is a great month for the board to kind of collectively get everything ready for the year. We have sponsorship coming in. We're setting schedules and dates and all that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of a good month for us to do some house cleaning and get ready for the year. So our first meeting will be our first meeting next year will be February 20th. And then if you want to put in your calendar, third Wednesday of every month, it does pan out next year. So if you just want to put just a recurring meeting in your calendar like I do, then you'll always know it's on the way, it's coming, and you can reserve your spot in your calendar so people don't try to set up meetings and say, I got to go to this meeting. And lastly, we really want to encourage people to come out to the meetings. It's a great networking environment. It's come and meet with colleagues and groups and just chat about things going on, being able to ask questions live in the audience, and just get free lunch, right? That's never a bad deal. But we also are looking forward to throwing some incentives out, drawings, things like that for next year. So we're trying to work out some plans to do some attendee incentives. I think with the online sessions that we do, how many people have reviewed online meetings after the fact? Yeah. So I know we have a lot of people that go up because we see the hits that go there, so there are a lot of people viewing it. Does that stunt maybe people coming out saying, oh, it's recorded, I'll catch it later? Well, last month is a good example. We had a little accident on the old, so, you know, if you were here last month, you were, it was a good treat, but we're going to still see if we can get that salvaged. Okay, moving on to talking about our sponsor. So this is our sponsor recognition. Again, like I mentioned before, I want to thank our sponsors because obviously without them, we're not able to put these on, you know, have lunch, have the meeting space, give a chance to set up this environment to network and meet every month. So this month, as I mentioned, IMAGINiT Technologies, and special thanks to Delane and his team. And so I'd like to have Delane come up here and tell us a little bit about IMAGINiT, say what's going on, and then introduce our speaker as well. So thanks, Delane.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Well, I'm going to be brief since I want to let Bryan come up and get right to the program. But my name is Delane Walter. I, along with Tom Ridge, who I know was planning on being here today, but I think something has come up. We are the two account executives that cover the Seattle, Tacoma, Alaska market. Some of you I'm sure I've talked to on the phone and don't recognize because I haven't met you in person, but please come down afterwards and say hello and introduce yourself. I'd greatly appreciate that. Tom and I are recent additions to IMAGINiT and certainly excited about the opportunity to partner with all of you and to work with you and work for you. We're just excited about where things are going and the things that are going on at IMAGINiT as well, and so we look forward to meeting with you as time allows. I very much appreciate all of you coming today and sharing this time with us. We're excited about a couple of new things that IMAGINiT has developed, and I'm going to let Bryan take care of those because he'll do those much better justice than me, and then have him get into the stairs and railings. So again, thank you very much and have a great day.
Hi everyone, I'm back. You may recognize me. I think this is my third or fourth SeaRUG I've presented at. I actually also have presented stairs before, about 2 years ago. And then just in May, I did a big presentation on everything involving collaboration. And we talked about the BIM 360 stuff. We talked about other third-party applications, hardware. I also touched briefly on a product of ours called Clarity. And I only showed one feature of that program. Today, I wanted to take just a little bit of time and talk about Clarity because we do have some exciting announcements regarding that. First, who am I? If you can't see me from way back there, there's a big shot of my mug. I'm Bryan Cowles, work for IMAGINiT, BSD technical specialist. I am one of the team managers for the western half of North America. I'm based out of Salt Lake City. Prior to joining IMAGINiT, I worked for 5 years in the industry at an AE firm. We did architecture, structure, HVAC, and piping drawings for anything from $1 million high-end residential to a couple 100,000 square feet office buildings to small healthcare clinics. We did just about anything we could get our hands on. We even did a lazy river at a water park in Dubai. So project experience all over the board. I've been with IMAGINiT for that number's a lie. It's more like 8 years and 10 months. So I rounded up. So that's a little bit of me. I like the green screen picture because my colleagues that are good at 3ds Max can put me in all sorts of different situations. So today's agenda, the bulk of the presentation is going to be about stairs and handrails. But like I said, I wanted to take a little bit of time and talk about a couple tools that we have just released in the last 18 months, but more specifically what's been going on in the last 5 to 6 months. Specifically, our utilities. We at IMAGINiT have developed a series of 14 tools that are plugins to Revit that just make very common, also very tedious and time-consuming tasks in Revit faster and more automated, like quickly renumbering elements. Just being able to click in a selection, say I want to start with 101 and go, renumbers all your elements. Being able to match your door number to your room number. It does it all automatically. A couple of the 3 new ones that we have is we have one for Excel. We can export categories from Revit, any category, any properties, into an Excel file. That Excel file is editable, so you can give it to a non-Revit user, they can edit the file, give it back to the Revit user, they can import it, and those changes will apply to the properties that can change. We have one called the the parameter concatenator, and if you're familiar with concatenate in Excel, it does essentially the same thing. Takes 2 properties and squishes them into one different property. So if you wanted your door tags to be mark plus an abbreviation for your finish, you can squish the 2 parameters into your tag. Works really nice. And then the other new one is a dimension text update, where if you know you need to add, field verify or sim or tip to several dimensions, you just need to type what you want, and then you just click on each dimension, and it will automatically add the text where you want. So some really nice tools. I don't have time to demonstrate them because I want to focus on clarity. That is a big product we released last year, and when I showed it in May, it was reliant on Revit Server. Does anyone here have Revit Server? See, this was our biggest problem with clarity, is about 1 in 20 of our customers had Revit Server up and running. So what we did is we took all the functionality of clarity and made it file-based support now. So you can do task automation, get reports, room data info on any Workshare-enabled Revit project on your server. It doesn't have to be on a Revit server anymore. Last time, I only showed one feature, and that was using the security portion of clarity to control the Revit server. Because Workshare doesn't need Revit Server, that security piece has become not important with the Workshare version of Clarity, but I do want to show really quickly what is Clarity, more so than I showed last time. So first, Clarity is 95% a web portal for non-Revit users to access BIM information from your Revit files. I'm going to quickly log in as an administrator. And while I do this, just take note that anything you're seeing can be accessed from anywhere you have an internet connection. So here, I'm in as an admin, so I have access to everything right now. All my projects, I can edit, change, create, add, delete, anything I want. But what I want to focus on right here is our users and our projects. So right now, notice on my Clarity site, I have 4 projects running right now. But maybe I have a user or a project manager that is only working on one project, and I don't want him messing with my other projects. That's one thing that Clarity is able to take care of, is I can come in and say, all right, this Bryan Cowles user is a little shady. I want to limit his visibility. Notice I'm only allowing him visibility to this one project. Now, if we were using a Revit server, when I went into Revit, that's the only file I would see. I wouldn't see the other 4 projects. But because I am not using Revit Server in this instance, I'm just controlling this user's visibility inside of Clarity. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm now going to log out, and I'm going to log in as that user. And notice that my interface is different. I don't have all those tabs up top. I'm not an admin. I only have access to view project data. So who here has people in their firm that are always asking for Revit data, but you never, ever want them opening a Revit file? Of course, there's plenty of people like that. But these are the people, now correct me if I'm wrong, these are the people that are always asking for, could you print me off the floor plans? Could you print me some elevations? I just need an updated door schedule. I need to look at my, they're the ones that are always asking for it. So let's give it to them. They log in here, I give them access to their project, and all of these pages are customizable, by the way. So here's just a project welcome screen giving me my BIM coordinators. You know, I can contact Joe Montana from the architecture team, Bob Marley from the structural team, William Wallace is my MEP engineer. But what I can really do is come in here and look at these files and look at the data from these files. So when I go to this architectural file, I can come over here and look at reports. This is the data from Revit. So if I wanted to look at a door schedule, here's all the doors that are in this project right now. I can expand these. I can expand further and see all the information. This is read-only. This is not editable, but it is manipulatable. So I can actually move properties around, sort by specific properties. I can actually come down here and grab more properties. So if I wanted to include fire rating, I'm just going to drag fire rating up here. Now I'm getting the fire rating of this component. Anything that I want to grab, we can use out-of-the-box properties, custom project properties, shared parameters, anything in the file we can pull out. I'm also going to come up here and maybe look at a room schedule. So here's my room schedule. Like I mentioned, the data is manipulatable. I can come up here and export this to Excel if I wanted. If I wanted to give this to someone who wants to do some analysis in Excel, I'll just go ahead and hit open. And here's now a full room report from my Revit project in Excel that now someone can analyze or do whatever. But like I said, you can also just do straight manipulation here. Like if I drag department up, notice I'm going to drag it up in this case. It's now grouping everything by department and giving me totals. So my administration is 1,212 square feet, and there's all the rooms in administration. So you can just very good, easy access to data. Data sheets. Who here does room data sheets? Oh, a couple people. Well, if you don't do room data sheets, hopefully this is impressive either way. If I click here and say, I want to look at my data sheets, I'm pulling these from the Revit model. As the Revit model updates, I can get this data update. It gives me an image of the room, all the properties from the room, finishes, square footages. We're tapping into linked files as well and pulling out what's in this room. So I have 6 power receptacles in this room. If I continue down, how about a convenient key plan highlighting where that room is? I continue further down. What equipment is in this room? What doors service this room? What furniture is in this room? Again, this is all customizable. If someone is pestering me for sheets, well, I just come back here to my, my architectural home, and I can say, well, let's look at these PDFs. We are automatically generating these PDFs. Who here spends more than an hour a week exporting PDFs, DWFs, DWGs, etc.? This is all automated. I told it to do it every night at 1 a.m. It spits this out, puts it on the site. Now someone can self-serve themselves. Find the sheet they want, save it locally to their iPad or whatever device they have, print it directly from here. Again, we're just giving these users access to this information without them needing to open Revit or bother a Revit user. If I come here to my DWF tab, I can look at these in DWF format. I can actually do separate exports, elevations, floor plans, a 3D DWF. And all I need to do is just click that I want to view these. And this is, we've embedded the full design review plugin in here. So I can flip through sheets, zoom in on things, use my measure and markup tools, and say, all right, how wide is that door, there to there, 36 inches, great. I can use the select tool and pick on stuff and see all the BIM data associated with these objects. So that's all I want to show right now, but we have the ability to just go in and say, hey, I realize the model changed today. I want to re-export everything. And I hit create. It's going to re-export everything, and in about 5 minutes, everything on this website is going to be up to date to the most current version of that Revit file. So thank you for letting me go on a little bit about that tool. The big thing I wanted to point out is we are no longer reliant on Revit Server as the base of our technology. We can do this with any Workshare-enabled Revit file. So there we are. Let's jump into stairs, shall we? So in 2013, the stairs tool got a pretty big overhaul. It has new component-based functionality that allows us to individually create and edit risers, runs, landings, stringer supports. Also go in and start manipulating very specific elements of the handrails. It's getting very, very good. The image Rob showed earlier made me chuckle. It's not that bad anymore, but it is a lot better. We have a lot more customization abilities and control over what we've got in these. So before I get too deep into the component-based stairs, I do want to point out that right here is Stair by Sketch. And when I pick Stair by Sketch, you'll notice, well, it looks exactly the same as the old functionality. They didn't take that away and force you to use this new tool. They left the old functionality in there, so if you're comfortable with that, you're maybe not ready to adventure into the component-based stairs, and you need to get a stair out really fast, you can still use the sketch-based tools to get this information out of your file, or into your model, I should say. Once I do this, I want to point out a couple of things. When I make a sketch-based stair, it is just like it always was. Notice if I hover over an object and hit tab, I don't know if you can hear that, my computer's yelling at me saying, nope, there's nothing else to select. I can select the handrails, but that's about it. So this is where we can now move towards, oops, where's my slideshow? There it is. To this component-based tool. Now this is going to have a lot more options than you're probably used to seeing, and I'm going to try and cover as many of these as I can. Now, just like my presentations always are, if you've seen them, I like to start out basic and try and see how complicated I can get by the end of the 50 minutes that I've got. So, stair by component. When I pick this tool, and I just want to come up here and just show, just right here, stair by component. Pretty simple. It's right there with the stair tool. One of the first things is right here, location line. I can pick this right off the bat. I can't do that in the sketch mode still. But when I'm in this, I can say, I want this justified on the left side. If I know I need to follow a wall, well, put it to that side and follow the wall. Now, as I go, some of these get squished up here. Notice we have very specific areas that we can look at. I have a run, a landing, and a support, so that would be my stringers. As I sketch now, I'm going to leave this checked for right now, automatic landing, and I'm going to, let's open up a 3D view as well, because this is also something that is slightly different in the component-based sketch, is I'm going to get real-time results in 3D. So notice the first pick that I make, and the first run that I draw, it already is creating that as a 3D component. The next place that I pick, notice it's giving me a real-time preview of how it's going to treat this landing right now. So if I'm not liking it, I can kind of tweak and play with it, hit escape, and maybe try something else I forgot. I'm left justified there. But again, as I go, I just have all this visibility into what it is I'm actually creating. I didn't even finish the stair yet, notice. But I am immediately seeing different results as I go forward. Once I come up here and finish this stair, now it's going to go through and add the railings, anything like that. Now, notice when I come in here, I can select individual pieces. So I can select just that run. Hit tab, select just that landing, and start to edit different properties and areas of these components. If I scoot over a little bit, do another stair by component, and say an assembled stair. Oops, I keep forgetting I'm left justified. If I use this assembled stair, there is very convenient grips now that I can use to edit this. If it didn't make the landing wide enough, I knew I had a wall back here, well, I can just kind of grip edit that object now. If I grip edit this over here, notice it's individually editing the landing itself. So you do need to be aware of some of these differences as you're editing these. Now I just need to grab the stair here, and notice it's also got a convenient stretch grip, but this is another thing that will get you. When you edit the actual width of the run, it pushes the landing out with it. This caught me off guard a couple times. That's why I wanted to show you that these are some things that you may get hung up on as you're working. In that case, I'm just going to come back in here and simply stretch that back. So again, very easy, very simple to just start manipulating some of this geometry. So again, that's some of the very basics of this functionality. Something that's nice is I kind of skipped over it here, I forgot, to be honest, is you can actually flip the stair while you're still in sketch mode. As you noticed, I was able to see that 3D model going, and if I realized, well, my up is down and my down is up, there is I'll just go ahead and show where that's at. Right here, flip. And again, it's just going to flip that. And again, I'm still in sketch mode. I haven't finished this stair yet. So again, I can just come up and go to these tools and flip that stair. Go ahead and hit finish. This is where it's going to finalize the stair, create some handrails. Apparently our line's too short. I'm going to guess it's that little piece right there. That's fine. All righty. So, onward. Continuing with the component-based sketch tools. They added in some new run types. So we can still draw a straight run, we can still draw a spiral, but we have a new spiral type and a couple of winder stairs. So if you, maybe you're doing a more residential style and you need a winder in there, you can now just really quickly create these winder stairs. So let's take a quick look there. When I go to my stair tool, by component, come up here and I can see I have an L-shaped and a U-shaped winding stair. So if I pick the L-shaped, you see this, it kind of defaults to equally space that stair. Now when I go ahead and place it, obviously I could use my spacebar to rotate or align tools here. But as I go, notice when I grip edit this, it's pulling from both sides. So if I needed to misbalance this and have less at the bottom and more on the top, once again, just kind of grip edit and it's going to automatically pull and retract those different stair conditions. Again, if I needed to flip this, I can flip it before ever finishing the sketch. As I continue, notice it does a little bit of a goofy thing here. This was like, why is it doing this? It's trying to keep as many of the risers as it can in line with some center point out here. So notice that these stairs aren't parallel as we're going through, and that's a little annoying. But it's just a matter of now selecting the stair itself, and in my properties, I can come in and put in, I need a minimum width, and that's what it's trying to achieve, is it is trying to keep a minimum width as it goes. That's why some of them are getting angled. But I have these ones here, the parallel treads at the start and at the end. So if I know, okay, these last 8 stairs, I want it all parallel. Well, I'm just going to come into here. Oh, whoops. Let me select my run. And say my parallel treads at the start. There we go. At the end, I want 8 of them. And there you see now my 8 are parallel, and then it starts into the winding portion of the stair. So that's another little property that is going to catch you if you're like, why are all the stairs at an odd angle? That little property there. And another trick is notice when I have nothing selected. I've hit escape a couple times like any CAD or BIM user is apt to do. Hit escape 12 times more than necessary. When you don't have anything selected, those properties aren't here. So you'll be looking for these properties and you won't find them. Make sure that you come in and select the component of the stair that you're wanting to manipulate. I come in here and those are the properties that I want. Now as I come in here, notice that it gave me just a 90-degree corner at my inside corner. This is another property that's one of those that I have to select the run, and I can come in and say, I want a fillet on the corner. Once I activate that, I can specify the radius that I would like. I put too big of a number. Let's try a little smaller, 18 inches. Oh, still a little bit too big. I'll just try 1 foot then. There we go. So now you see I'm able to actually just quickly put a radius on that inside corner. So a couple of these properties you may not realize right away because you don't see them unless you actually have the run object selected. All right. Now, back to the old PowerPoint. So, those are those winder stair properties. Now, you'll notice very similar properties if I did a U-shaped winder. I'm low on time, so I'm not going to go through that one. We do have a couple of new stair types, and these are only applicable if you are using the component-based tool. One of them is, and I actually forget which one it is, if it's precast or cast in place. We'll go ahead and peek at that. Finish. There we are. Well, it's just Revit's way of saying slow down, be patient. Right over here, we're going to look at the precast type. So I mentioned that not all of these are available in the stair by sketch, so I'm just going to show this really quick. If I go stair by sketch, notice I have just stair. And it's giving me a monolithic and my typical assembled 7-inch rise, 11-inch minimum tread stair. If I were to, once again, do stair by component, notice this actually has very specific stair family types. I have the assembled stair, which is the 7-inch rise, 11-inch tread, but I also have a cast-in-place stair and a precast stair. Now these ones each have a couple of additional properties that we can use and manipulate. So if I came here and said, all right, I want to do this precast stair, and again, I'm just going to kind of do a quick U shape. Oh, I left it on assembled stair. Thinking there shouldn't be any stringers on that. Precast. Run. And come up here. This one actually has a little bit of a notch condition at the top of the stair. Now this is on by default. I can quickly turn it off. I can also adjust what side I want it on, top, bottom, both, just by going into these properties, just allowing me to have that little bit of extra detail about how the construction is really going to happen. And again, all I need to do is come in here and say, edit type, and maybe it's not the type properties. Oh wait, this is a full stair property. So these are the things that are going to get you. The last set of properties I showed, I had to select the run. This one, I have to have everything deselected because when I come here to edit type, here's my notch conditions. Do I want a straight cut? Do I want it notched? What size, what thickness, what extension distance? Do I want one, what my gap distances are? So we have all these different properties that we can start to examine, look at, and manipulate. The real trick here, as you've seen, is do I do it with nothing selected, or do I have to have the run selected? Well, I found there isn't a good rule of thumb for either of them. You just need to experiment. Just realize if you're not finding what you're looking for, select something. If it's still not there, deselect something, and it will be in usually one of those two areas. So once I've done that, well, there it added another rail for me. And I can continue forward. So with stairs, and specifically these component-based stairs, we're no longer constrained to the 2D sketch and not being able to get a sketch above a sketch. Has anyone here ever tried to draw a stair that to get the full height had to wind on top of itself? So what do you have to do? You have to draw a stair and get kind of to the point where it's going to overlap and you stop. And then you draw another stair and make sure you've got your offsets correct and you continue the stair going forward. Well here, if you're using the component-based stair sketch tool and you know I need to go all the way up there, there's no landing between them, but I'm going to wind amongst myself, I can go ahead and do that and have overlapping runs. The most difficult aspect of this in the old functionality was doing winding or spiral stairs, because those almost always will wrap upon themselves. And you had to do 2, sometimes 3 separate stairs just to make one stair. It made no sense. Now we can do this very quickly, very easily. Now I'm going to cover a couple topics with this one. When you have 2 runs, you can have Revit automatically connect them with a landing. Now this isn't a tool here that is just a checkbox that I want to get. So I'm just going to, I knew I added a note for a reason. So ignore the error I'm about to get, because I'm going to say that maybe this is an 18-foot floor-to-floor height. It's going to yell at me, I know it, saying my stairs no longer make it to the level. That's fine. Or I may just crash Revit. I've come to find out whenever Revit goes gray and it says not responding, that's a code. That's a secret code from Autodesk saying, be patient. Be patient. That's the, hopefully it's going to come back. So there it is. So there's my not responding. There it was. Just be a little bit more patient, and here we go. So it's working. Okay, so what I'm going to do while it's thinking, I'll talk about what I'm going to do before I do it, is, so that's fine. Now, when I come to do this overlapping stair, this time I am, like I said, going to combine two techniques into one just to save myself some time, because I still have, hopefully, a lot to get through here. I'll just put this to center. Now, there is this checkbox right here for an automatic landing. And that's what it was doing before. It was assuming that I wanted a landing. If I say, all right, let's do turn that off, I can actually come in and draw a run. And draw another run. And notice I can just come over here and draw another run. And come over here and draw another run. So it was able to just kind of keep going and keep going. I didn't have to exit the stair, complete a new sketch, start from where the old one ended. I can just keep on going. As you see, it just came in and stacked them all on top of each other here. So I've created a couple different runs. I'm going to do one more thing to show you another gotcha. I'm going to go ahead and finish this. And I'm just going to add one more component stair over here, just something like that. Now I'm going to edit this first stair. So when I come in and say Edit Stairs, notice I still have all of these component-based tools available to me. The one I want to show here is landing. Now, in order for Revit to make a landing, it has to be in the same stair component object. So notice I couldn't create a landing between the bottom of this one and the bottom of this one. It won't let me do that. So that's a catch that just pointing out that's a limitation right now. If they're in the same stair design or the same stair sketch is kind of a loose term at this point, but as the same stair sketch, as long as they have either two tops that are the same or a top and a bottom that are the same, elevation that is, I can just say I need a landing between that one and that one. And that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. Whoops, getting a little fast with my clicking. But you see, I'm just connecting different objects amongst themselves here. So very nice functionality to kind of plan some things out with the original tool. Maybe limit what I'm showing right now. As we figure it out, I'll add in landings later. And just to show, these landings are their own objects. So I can give them a different thickness at each landing if I needed to do that. I can give different material if I wanted. So again, these are all individual components as part of an overall larger component as we go forward. So go ahead and finish that off. And continue forward. It's kind of giving me some handrail things saying I had to extend to meet, things like that, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. So let's go ahead and delete him. Multi-run to the same level. So if you have essentially one stair system that is not just one set of stairs, it may be branches or it's two that meet into one, we can still do this type of functionality within the component-based stair tool. With the sketch-based stair tool, again, you'd have to make two separate stairs and kind of play with the settings and this and that. But this is going to be initially created but then modified using a sketch. So you can take component-based tools and convert them to a sketch so that you can easily manipulate them from there. So what I'm going to do is say I want a stair by component, and I'm going to pull this up, maybe say 10 there, pull this up, and I'll just go to there. That's fine. And then I'm just going to grab this one and just use my basic modification tools. So I'm going to say, all right, I want to mirror this across that run. And notice it kept the tread counts the same. It didn't try to make this stair 24 going up. So I was able to take two separate stairs, and I just mirrored one of them. I could have copied it, anything like that. Now I'm going to come up and say, all right, I need a landing between this one and this one. Now notice I can't say I also need a landing between this one and this one, or this one and this one. They already have their landing. So this is where I now need to say, okay, how am I going to get those two landings to meet with the big one? So this is where, if the situation applied, I could grip edit this one and be fine like that. But this is the problem I'm going to have, and I actually did it with a incorrect stair type. If I did one that had stringers on it, I left it at the concrete stair, as you see. If I had one with stringers on it, it actually would continue this stringer all the way through and then up and over. So instead of just stretching that, here I'm actually going to come up here and notice there's a tool that says convert. Any stair component I can convert back to its original sketch that would have been used to originally create this geometry. So I'm going to say convert. Now, that error, I should have left it up. I clicked through it really quick, as I'm apt to do in Revit. Well, warning, I'll deal with it later. Which, by the way, clear your warnings out every week at a minimum, just a suggestion. But once this is a sketch, I cannot go back to a component based unless I delete it and recreate it. So just be aware of that. Now that I have this as a sketch-based tool, I have the ability to edit this sketch. So now, if I come through, I'm going to grab this and pull it over. And actually, I'm going to just use the Align tool. There to there. And trim, and finish. I wish I would have left it at the assembled stair, because you would have seen that the stringers would have cleaned up at the top of that stair. Now, another thing that's kind of interesting, as we'll see here, is this run line. When I go ahead and finish this stair, I'm not sure what that error there was. Oh, actually, this is a great example. So instead of showing it with the stringer, you can see it with the handrail. Had I done it that first way, the handrail would have been blocking the top of that rightmost stair. But because I switched it to a sketch, it realized that those two needed to stop, and notice it actually made this a continuous rail. They were originally two separate objects, but because they were all based on this one component-driven stair, it understood how to handle at least the handrail in these unique situations. Alrighty. So let's see where I'm at. All right, stair path adjustment. So if I come in here and edit my stair again, right here on the run, if I pick there, I'm just going to, whoops, excuse me. When I pick run, so right now the stair doesn't quite recognize this other piece over here, as you can see, and this can actually have some negative effect when you're trying to adjust the display settings of the stair. If you wanted the cut planes to work properly, the different displays, hidden lines, or however you want to show your stairs, this can actually make this one on the right look a little different, and you may not want that. So what we'll need to do is I'm going to pick I need to do a new run, and then it gets into this boundary, riser, or stair path, and I actually want to show I picked run, and then the tool I picked was this one right here, sketch. So I'm going to sketch this, and there is this new one here called stair path, where I can actually say this needs to continue. Well, Apparently I can't draw a straight line either. And we'll go ahead and connect those in. Go ahead and hit finish. Interesting. Need to pull that all the way down. Can't create this run by sketch. I must have missed. Looks like I'm off just slightly. No, it's not snapping for me. Well, as you see, sometimes live demos just don't work out for you when you're trying to do them quick. But this will help when it comes to manipulating how these stairs are going to look when I start altering visibility settings, visibility graphics, type properties, things like that. Now, speaking of, I think that's my next topic. There are some new stair display settings. So we now have a little bit more control over how they look in our plans. Some of these are nice. Some of these aren't. I wish there were still a little bit more, but we're getting better here. Some of these were user-generated, so I do recommend if you've got something that's just still driving you crazy, put them on that wish list, because these were actually a big item on the architectural wish list. So first, I'm going to make a stair that's not the precast. Stair by component, make an assembled stair, and I'll just throw it over here. It's a long stair. Long straight stair, no landing. Code. Who follows code? So we have these new display settings. There are several of them. Some of them are in the model visibility graphics. Some of them are in the annotation visibility graphics. Some of them are part of the type properties of the stairs. So they're all over the place. So let's take a look at these. So in my plan view, if I go to visibility graphics, on the model categories tab, this one's easy to find, easy to remember. It's just under the stairs category. There's this new series of them called above. I can now individually adjust what things look like below the cut plane and what they look like above the cut plane. So I could say, I don't want to see the riser lines, I only want to see the nosing lines, or vice versa. I don't want to see the supports above the cut plane. I want to change what the line type is of these above the cut plane only. So again, you can, I don't know, I'll just make them red. Some sort of change. Oh, well. I turned them off, and then I changed the color. It figures. So I'll turn off the nosing and have red riser lines above there. So again, you now have these just individual little tweaks and controls to adjust how these look. If I go to my annotation category, there's one called stair paths. So this is now specifically regarding that path line. And this is where that last step I was talking about can have an adverse effect if you don't adjust that stair run, because we're now looking at that path. So we now have above the cut plane, do I want the arrow to continue? This is just a simple yes or no, and it's got some basic overrides. But now you see, once it hits the cut plane, it continues with a different arrow. I can adjust what it looks like, what line types, anything like that if I wanted to match it. It's still a little annoying that it splits them here. If I wanted them to be continuous, I haven't found that setting yet. So it's 2 arrows instead of the 1, but I can at least get it above this cut plane. And there we are. The next one is in the actual type properties. So if I select the stair and go to Edit Type, we have this area where it says Graphics. Now I have single zigzag. The 2 that come out of the box are single zigzag and double zigzag, but when I dove in here, I'm thinking, oh, could I customize this? Yeah, kind of. You have 2 choices, a zigzag break or an arced break. But you can also now specify the angles you want, how wide they are, the symbol size. And again, I mentioned you can have a zigzag or a curve. So I just made a new type for a double zigzag, one for a single curve. So now as I come through, I could say the cuts or the graphic style I want is that double zigzag. So now you see it throws in a double break in there. Or if I select the stair, come back in here and say I want a single curve, you can see it gives me a little curvy break symbol. I tried digging into the family tree to see how deep I could go in editing this, and I found that here is the stair cut mark. In the family tree, it's under stairs, but notice there's no edit family button. I was trying to say, could I make this whatever I wanted? So unfortunately, not right now. Maybe in the future. But we've got a little bit of customization there. The last one, and this is a new system variable, not system variable, what's the proper word for it? System family. You can't really manipulate these other than the basic properties they give you, but notice I can hover over and hit tab, and I can actually select the stair path itself and start to manipulate how I want this to look. Where do I want the up text? Well, I normally couldn't do anything with this, either on or off, but I can say I want the up text up here or up here. You know, I can just manipulate this wherever I would like. I can come over here and say, show the text. I can go edit type and start to adjust, okay, what angle types do I want? Do I want an open arrow? Do I want the arrow, instead of just being this much of the stair, do I want it to go the full width of the stair? That's what this little check mark does. So now you see my arrow goes the full width of the stair. Again, just some of these things that are interesting. I added an arrowhead to the bottom as well. That makes no sense, though, because I'm now pointing two directions. Let me go ahead and say none. So again, you have this manipulation. Also, if you don't want this centered, you can just edit this, although notice what happens when you have the full width arrow. Kind of does some interesting things there. So maybe if you're going to have it off center, say I just want an 1/8 inch arrow there. But again, you just got these slight graphical manipulations that you can do to get these maybe feeling and looking a little bit more how you prefer them, or to, if you had something right there that you also needed to show, not have overlapping lines or geometry. So that's just some of the graphical settings that have been implemented into the new stair functionality. All right, so, whoops, wrong button. Stringers. Who here has ever tried to use a C-channel profile as your stringers? Well, in 2012 and previous, it was a bear. In fact, the best way I found to do it in 2012 or earlier was to literally build a handrail that's at the bottom of the stair that goes up. That's really the only way you could do it, because you could only use a rectangular stringer. That's not the case anymore. We can now use any profile family. Oh, thank you, I got one. We can use any profile family as a stringer now. We can also add or remove individual stringer elements on a stair. So, I'll delete this one and I'll just build a whole new one. Another save reminder. I hope you don't click cancel as aggressively as I do in your office. Hopefully you are actually saving your files at certain points. Oh, it didn't give me a landing either. So remember, if you're drawing runs and it's not giving you a landing, there's your checkbox right there to make it so you don't have to go back and add in your own landing. So I'm going to finish this. It adds in the stringers for me as I go forward. And let me switch to my 3D view, because I want to point out, oh, I was playing with this earlier. Turn this back to the default. So this was the old stringer that you were kind of forced into using. Now, if I come in here, notice I can individually select stringer elements. Now this is a graphical bug, I'll call it. If I'm in hidden line or shaded, once I select it, it doesn't show me that I have it selected anymore, so I think this is a graphic bug. But I do have it selected, and I can hit delete or select individual entities and just modify them as I go. I can also go back into my Edit Stairs area. Oh, this is where I want it to do it. So I'm going to select it. Notice I can come in and just individually delete elements. So if I knew I was right up against a wall there, maybe in this instance I didn't need those two stringers, I can delete them off of this without doing anything fancy with a special landing or voids or in-place families. I'm just editing this component right here. If I delete one and I want it back in, just realize there's this support tool that I just need a stringer there and there to add them back in. Now, once I finish this and I select an individual stringer object, if I go to the type properties of this stringer, now this is something that's interesting, is most of these properties are grayed out right here. So notice I can't duplicate this to add a new custom profile. That's silly. I want to. I'll show how to do that in just a bit. But right here is section profile, where I'm going to say I want to bring in a channel profile. Go ahead and hit OK. And now I can actually use a channel as my stringer type. Notice there is a series of properties in here. So actually, by default, this one is unchecked. I knew it was going to flip. I knew it needed flipped. So if you don't check that, you see it has it backwards. But you've got options in there to flip the profile. Whoops, I grabbed the stair, not just the stringer. Flip the profile, move these up or down if I didn't get them lined up just perfectly. But ultimately just allow me to really control what profile and where in location this needs to be. Now notice that right now there's just this one type. And if I have two stair types, I need a channel stringer on this stair, but I need a really decorative, fancy wooden one on the one that's in the lobby. Well, you can't just duplicate this right now. This is kind of a silly workaround here, but you do have to go to the family tree to find that. So when I say stairs, right here is stringer. There's the one that I want. I can right-click here and say duplicate. Kind of silly. I'm going to guess that's another programming oversight. But I'm going to say duplicate. Now I've got this second one that I'm going to call, I don't know, custom wood. Now I can right-click here and go to my properties. But first, let me load in a custom one. Documents. Oh, I didn't copy these over. There we are. So there's just my stringer profile, just a profile family. Go ahead and hit open. So now when I come in here and say, all right, I'm going to edit the type properties of this, you know, I could pick its material as wood. Come right here and say, all right, this stringer profile that I just created is the one that I want. But notice still, it's not letting me do this. So it is kind of a unique workaround or workflow, but I could assign this right here, but it does seem like a programming oversight, like they just didn't put in the ability to easily manipulate this. So it's part of either the stair type properties where I would adjust this, because I can't adjust the stringer type after the fact. So I would have needed to assign the stringer type before, and now you see my profile is flipped, because it was flipped to match my channel. Now I can just come in and flip it back. That line too short error. So there again, I see this one here. Now, just to point out, you may not want to put so many arcs in such a simple profile. That can really overload your graphics processor. I did it just to illustrate that point there. But now, just build a profile. Be sure you assign it correctly in your type properties and that it's assigned correctly in your stair type properties. And then you can really start customizing exactly what stringer types you want, what profiles you want to use. So all sorts of good things with these differing objects. So I'm actually going to take these two handrails and I'm going to swap them out with this pipe guardrail. So, handrails are still a pain in the butt. I've got a feeling that the handrail module, and I'm just hypothesizing here, don't hold me to this. I'm hypothesizing that the handrail module will be one of the next big overhauls. But right now it still uses that kind of archaic table and patterning technique to get handrails. Now if you're only doing balusters and rails, it's not too bad. But who here's tried wrestling a handrail that's panelized? Oh, that's a headache all in itself. I spent a good amount of time a couple years ago showing a bunch of tricks on that. But that can be a nightmare, and it still is, unfortunately. But what they made a lot easier is editing the railing portions. The balusters and panels are still using the old techniques. But we can come in and start editing specific parts of these objects, the top rail and any handrail item. And this can be done with simple tab selection and tab editing. So first, if I hover over this, notice it wants to select the whole handrail first. But if I hit tab, notice I can select just the top rail or just that handrail. Now I have some really handy manipulation tools here. So if I know I need to add a rail return, which, hey, that's code, I need to do it on almost every stair I ever draw. Doing that previously, I'd either have to add an extension line or make a custom post family that I would add to the end. But here, I can grab this rail and come up here to type properties, and notice there's this extension areas. So I've got a couple of different extensions, at the beginning or the bottom, and the end or the top. So if I wanted the bottom to have just a return rail, comes down and comes back upon itself, I'm going to say the extension style, I want to be a post extension style, and it's kind of a weird term to use. And then I can say, how long do I want this? So I'll say 12 inches. I can add in a tread depth if I wanted to. I'll go ahead and hit OK. That stupid line is too short error. But notice it just went in and added that return rail for me. Now the default return rail like that is rectangular in shape, but I can actually come in here and edit that to make it whatever I want. Another thing I can do is if I say, all right, now at the top extension style, maybe I wanted this to kind of do what this one at the bottom is doing. Just come in and then just go straight to the ground. This is where I can come up and say the extension style here, go to the floor. Notice also there's go to a wall. So if I needed it to just turn into a wall, I can do that as well. So I'm going to say go to the floor. And this is where there's a new family type in here that we can use as well. So, well, this one's not a good example. This one doesn't have like a little plate at the bottom. Right now, it's just going to turn the rail down and put it right to the floor. But if I know I had a little plate down there or some little object, I can say at the bottom, there's just this default one, but you can customize these. I just want a little wood termination at the bottom. And I'll go ahead and hit OK. That stupid line is too short error. Wait, did I edited the wrong one. Whoops. So let's back that up. So I wanted the rail here. So I wanted the top to go to the floor. And I want the top termination to be wood rectangular. So there you see, it turned the rail down, stopped at the floor, and added in that little wood block at the bottom. And again, that's something that can be customized, edited. Now, like I said, it defaults all of these to squared corners. What I can do is if I hold tab, or not hold tab, hit tab, select that, I can come up and say, I want to edit this rail further. Now notice this is a different looking rail sketch. It doesn't look like the purple lines that we're used to for the whole handrail. This is just the sketch for that top rail. So I can come up and say, I want to edit the specific path for this, and I want to use an arc. Oh, whoops. Let me try that again and delete that piece in there. So it was trying to join them all, so I deleted that little vertical piece. And there you see it's just a matter of manipulating the lines to look exactly how I want it. I can grab this and maybe pull this back, grab this. You know, don't copy my designs, they're copyrighted. But you know, it's as easy as that. You just grab it, tell it you want to edit the sketch that's driving it, and just start sketching it. Another thing I wanted to point out is, I'm actually running a little bit out of time here, is you can change your work plane as well. So just something to take in consideration if you're needing to edit these, this geometry. Last thing that I want to show is, in a situation like this, perhaps this little handrail here, I wanted that corner join to not be a miter corner, I want it to be radiused. So what I can do is very similar technique. And I could do this on the handrail or the top rail. But if I say I want to edit this rail, and I come in here and say, all right, let's edit the path, there's this tool right here, edit the rail joins. And this is specifically for corners. So I say I want to edit how this join looks, and don't be confused that it puts the endpoint snap on there. It's just letting you know that's the endpoint we're editing. And I can then come up here, and there's a little pull down. But I can say, all right, by type, which obviously is going to be driven by the railing itself, or do I want to miter this or fillet this? So I'm going to say fillet with a 6-inch radius. Go ahead and hit finish and finish. And again, just very nice tools to manipulate just little parts of the rail or the entire rail. So as you see, we're getting to where all of these objects are becoming more individually based. So they're easier to edit on an individual basis. Like I mentioned, doing balusters and panels is still a pain in the butt. Hopefully, we're going to get an update to that in a future release. But we're getting there. These are a lot easier to manipulate, customize, and make how we want them to look, how they're actually built, instead of some of the goofy logic that was in the old ones, as well as, you know, manipulate these how we want. So with that, thank you. So we'll go ahead and open it for Q&A, all right? Do you have any final words?
A couple questions, yeah. We have time for a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got one way in the back.
Yeah. I'm going to do something at the end there. Can you edit the path of the handrail, like you edit the path of the top rail?
Yes. So the question for the microphone, can you edit the handrail path? Absolutely. It's just a matter of what you're selecting. So if I pick the whole handrail and say edit path, this is just like it's always been. So then I can edit the path how I want. What I was doing is making sure that I get on it and hit tab, tab, tab. Oh, come on, buddy. There we go. And I only selected that one piece of the handrail, not the entire system.
When you were doing the join on the handrail portion of the rail, and you used that miter tool in the corner, could you alternatively do that by editing simply the sweep path of that handrail?
Yeah. So the question is, could I have done this arc on just the handrail piece of it to the whole rail? Yeah, I would have just edited that purple sketch that I just showed.
No. So when you edited the top rail and you modified the sweep path of it at the end to give the curly cube, do you have
Not as detailed as I was able to do with the top rail. But the functionality is there. It's just a matter of how you draw the sketch and what work planes you're working with. Yeah. One more question. We'll go right here.
Yeah, a question. If you're doing something like a custom steel T-section center stringer, when you draw that custom profile, you need to do that in a separate family, like when you load it.
Yeah, so that profile I brought in was a separate family. I went File, New, Family, picked Profile, sketched it, and loaded it back into the project.
Okay, so it's just a profile family.
Yep, yep, precisely. And that's a good question. I actually have not tried to use a different profile for a center stringer. That's something we're trying. I haven't actually done that yet, so I'm not sure how well that works or even if it's a possibility to have two stringer types on one stair.
Well, is the center stringer an option versus side stringer?
Yeah, it's an option in there, but I don't know if I can pick a specific profile just for that one. That one's worth investigating. We'll do one more right here. Pardon? Putting in an intermediate handrail, the stair tool by default adds them to the sides. If I wanted an intermediate handrail, what I would do is just go to the handrail tool. And the first thing you need to do is pick the host that you want. This needs to be going on this stair. Now, when I draw this, it's going a bit slow. Chain. And continue that through. There's not going to be much room to walk up that particular stair, but yeah, I just use the handrail tool and say this is hosted on the stair and just draw it right where I want it. All right.
Okay.
I'll be here with more questions if you need them.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, a couple of quick announcements, and everybody can start moving out of here. I forgot to mention this earlier. My Revit Insider, Sage, where'd he go? Is he still here? There he is. Actually, mentioned to me earlier that he thinks that there's a web update 2 either out now or just about to come out. Kind of the rumor mill for Revit web update 2. So, I guess yeah, exactly. So hey, who knows? It might fix that little visibility issue or that. So who knows? We'll see. So, anyways, I guess keep an eye out for that. I want to, of course, thank Brian for a great presentation. Thanks for joining us again. He'll hang out here if you got any follow-up questions. Of course, IMAGINiT for hosting, for being our host sponsor this month. We'll look for this presentation. Hopefully, we recorded all good. And and our next a reminder: our next meeting is November 14th. So it's the second week. It's the week before Thanksgiving. Look for that invitation at the beginning of the month, and we'll see y'all next month. Thanks everybody for coming out.